Everybody here? Welcome, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to the work session of the Millcreek City Council. It is February 9th, 2026. The time is 6:00 p.m. And all council members are present. We'd like to welcome Evan Tyrell, the General Manager of the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, and here for his first official report as the new director. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Congratulations to you all for your recent re-elections and in some cases appointments. Very exciting for both of you and all of you that are here. Thanks for allowing me to headline your work meeting this evening. I do have a rather content-dense PowerPoint that I've presented, that I provided today, but I'm going to go through it relatively quickly in most cases. If there are questions, feel free to stop me. I can answer questions at the end, or if you have questions after this presentation, feel free to reach out me via email or phone call. I should get this clicker to work here. I do want to spend a couple of minutes on this slide, and this is something that most of you have probably seen in the past. So what we're really trying to do is emphasize what our base services includes and what programs and other kind of services behind the scenes are happening. And so obviously we're predominantly residential collection services. In those services, we're providing weekly garbage and recycle collection, but there's a whole other large variety of items that we do provide on a relatively consistent basis. Some are seasonal, but others are largely intended to make sure that our partner cities really don't have to expend time and resources in managing or overseeing their refuse and recycling collection services. So some of those items are that we'll talk about today a little bit later is the seasonal container reservation program, or SCRAP, our landfill voucher program. We do have 2 central glass drop-off locations in Millcreek and throughout our service areas. We are looking at one of those containers at the Wasatch Boulevard site to possibly relocate that. We're working with a resident in Millcreek as part of that. Councilwoman Weepy has been involved in some of those correspondence, as well as Mr. DeSirant as well. So more to come on that. We have had a lot of challenges in finding a new home for that container, which is very heavily used in recovering recyclable glass. Other items that I'll just mention briefly, our central leaf bag distribution and collection program. Very successful this year. We were over 1,100 tons of leaves collected just throughout all of our service area. And obviously ongoing recycling education and outreach. And a lot of the in-house stuff that we do is, all of our customer service is managed in-house. So if there's a missed pickup, if there's a customer concern, we have that active customer service center at our offices, resolving billing concerns, for example. But we also manage all of the account changes and also the billing changes throughout the year, which we did just very recently implement our monthly billing, which has been planned for now quite some time. It did go off with a minor hiccup, unfortunately, for our e-billing customers, and we've actively resolved that, and that should not occur again in the future.
And as an e-billing customer, what was that hiccup that I wasn't aware of?
Yes, so
That's correct. I don't read my statements.
The one broken down into.
So what happened, our payment processing provider that sends out the e-bills, some customers have their auto pay set up for 5 days prior to the due date or the day of the due date. So the batch that we sent to our electronic billing provider, we sent it to them prior to the end of the month, and they actually issued the e-bills on the 30th of January instead of what we intended to be February 1st, which was on a weekend. And so when those new e-bills went out, if someone had a auto pay set up for the end of the month, it automatically transferred that amount over, did not collect the auto payment amount, and it transferred that amount to be due as of February 28th.
like a double bill
In some cases, yes.
or a missed payment or something.
Correct. So it included the 4th quarter of 2025, so October, November, December, plus now the first month of January. So it was a integration glitch of various unforeseen circumstances that we have resolved at this time, and it should not occur in the future as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for your response to the customer who inquired about that. I really appreciate your thorough response and looking into it and giving him good details. That was
You're very welcome.
good service.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And then, of course, we offer additional subscription services, our green waste reclamation service. All that material is collected curbside and brought to the Salt Lake Valley landfill, where they compost that material and redistribute that as mulch and compost throughout the community. Millcreek is our largest curbside green subscriber and our largest curbside glass subscriber, which is awesome. And so I'll provide some data in that a little bit further on in this presentation. The circle wheel that we have there is basically all of the materials that we've collected and hauled to various facilities throughout all of 2025. So over 100,000 tons of trash, over 18,000 tons of recycling. This is all curbside numbers. As I mentioned, the 1,100 tons of leaves, 836 tons of glass, and nearly 6,000 tons of green waste that was reclaimed at the Salt Lake Valley landfill.
That graphic is great, Rita. That might be nice in one of our e-newsletters, because that's an impressive number. All these, yeah.
It's quite a bit. Thank you. So I just wanted to just very briefly highlight our service area. It is rather wide-ranging, diverse. So we currently are servicing 14 towns and municipalities, as well as still areas of unincorporated Salt Lake County. And so Millcreek is our highest number of homes serviced throughout our service area, coming close to 16,000 homes that we're servicing. Bottom line, we're servicing nearly 86,500 homes as of December 31st. The way in which we designate and identify our collection logistics and those timeframes, we try to have those based by municipality or jurisdiction. We do have those kind of overlapping in some cases, but they're largely intended to maximize our collection efficiencies. And then the materials end up at different destination facilities depending on the geographic location to maximize those efficiencies as well. And so predominantly Millcreek materials end up at the Salt Lake Valley transfer station for where the garbage goes, and then Rocky Mountain Recycling for the recycling processing. All of the green waste is hauled. It's north of Magna to the Salt Lake Valley landfill, where they have a residential green curbside program that Salt Lake City and Woodford partner with them on that. And ultimately those materials are cost less for the organization to recover those. And so we'll talk about a little bit about that today as well. Moving on,
Hey,
a lot of data here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, going back a slide. So there was a bill a couple of, I think maybe 2 sessions ago, that put a timeline up for forcing those Sandy Islands to be incorporated within the city of Sandy. Do you know if Sandy wants to continue having, once that happens this year, next year, the year after, I don't exactly remember what the timeline is. Does Sandy want to keep those houses in Woodford, or do they want to pull out?
That is a great question, and that hasn't been brought up explicitly with me. I did present to their council about a month ago, and we kind of talked about, I had a separate map that shows those various service areas throughout Sandy City and then the remaining unincorporated areas. Should they want to, we can certainly explore those opportunities. Those would be kind of simple boundary adjustments throughout our collective service area. I do know that since we do collect in White City, which is kind of a large island inside of Sandy, that does enhance our efficiencies in collecting materials throughout those communities as well. So Sandy does include a variety of items on this chart here. So Sandy City, 500 customers, Willow Creek, 501, Granite is part of that service area, and Willow Canyon, I believe. So it's collectively, it's a large number of customers that does help us to enhance our efficiencies in our operations. But I think for something to answer your question directly, should they want to pursue that, it would be a simple boundary adjustment, which is much more simple than a larger change in service areas.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Where is
Yes.
4B Lane?
4B Lane is immediately due west of Kearns. You can see at that red, very small area to the northwest of West Jordan. is 4B Lane. It's just a remaining unincorporated area of Salt Lake County. West Jordan, that area that recently incorporated, or I'm sorry, annexed into West Jordan, that's the Ochre Highlands area. We don't have that on this chart yet. That's relatively new, and I think that's about 500 to 600 homes in that area as well. So 4B Lane, a very small, kind of unique island in far south unincorporated county.
Thank you.
I'll skip through this very quickly. This is basically just showing the number of containers that we service by service area. So again, Millcreek, with the highest number of homes serviced, has the largest number of trash cans, recycle cans. Millcreek is our largest subscriber for our green waste reclamation program, as well as our curbside glass program. And so overall, when we're servicing these cans on an annual basis, or a weekly basis, excuse me, should the can be sent out, we're servicing nearly 200,000 containers on a weekly basis, which is a pretty big number, large volume operations. This next one, I'll briefly just describe this. So these data present on the curbside tons only. So this is not our front load containers, this is not our leaf bag programs, but this is basically showing by service area where the materials are being taken for final disposition or recovery. So as I mentioned, Millcreek, largely the materials go to the transfer station, Salt Lake Valley. All of the recyclables went to RMR, Rocky Mountain Recycling, in 2025. The green waste all goes to Salt Lake Valley, and then the glass goes to Momentum for recycling, which doesn't incur a charge for that material. So we're looking at different ways to visualize our data, so using colors, using different bar charts, and so more to come on this as we continue to look at our information in different ways to present it that's more visually interpretable on a quicker basis. One other item here, and so on the bottom left, this is again comparing just the curbside materials, and so those tons equate to dollars as to the cost for the disposition. And so again, just including the disposition costs, the tipping fees for these. This does not include labor, fuel, operational cost. We wanted to start looking at data in different ways, and so we basically fit these expenses, the totals, into the chart on the right, which is on the x-axis is the number of homes serviced, and then the y-axis being the total tipping costs. And so as you would expect, you see that those data fit relatively well on this trend line. The correlation factor is about 98%. That's the R squared on that. You will notice a couple deviations from the dots that are on this fitted line. So Harriman, we know that we take that material to the Trans-Jordan landfill, and that costs us a little bit more for the tipping fees at that facility. It's $41 a ton versus I believe 35 it was at the transfer station in 2025. So those numbers look a little bit different. Millcreek, which shows a little bit lower on that curve, indicates that the materials that we're handling, and I believe this is due to the large subscription in green waste and the glass that we're recovering, which costs us less for disposition, is helping to keep that cost lower. So better efficiencies, but also lower costs for the disposition of those materials. We're looking at a rather comprehensive service cost comparison throughout the three counties, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah County. We're working on kind of refining that and bringing it to where we can present it in a readily interpretable way. So more to come on that in a future update as well. We are seeing that as part of those comparisons, based on the services that we're providing, it does appear that and I would argue, of course, that we are competitive given all the services that we're providing throughout our communities as part of that base service rate as well. Other communities provide every other week recycling, or funds for their bulky waste management program come out from their general fund, and so we operate as a single enterprise fund. So our fees are based on our cost of operations. So more to come on that at a future time. This chart is basically just to show that recycling markets are incredibly volatile, and the cost of processing recyclables changes on a monthly basis. And so the blue line is showing the monthly tipping fee, the processing cost per ton at Rocky Mountain Recycling. and the orange line is showing the waste management materials recovery facility processing costs. And so changes in commodity values, but also as it relates to composition audits of our materials impact these costs per ton. And so when commodity markets aren't doing very well for cardboard, for example, those processing costs go up. And so we track these. Largely, we deliver to these facilities based on geographic location and proximity. But in some cases, for example, Taylorsville, we split some of our materials between WM and Rocky Mountain. And so when we saw the increase in waste management going above Rocky Mountain, we, for the rest of the year, delivered our materials to the Rocky Mountain facility. So keeping an eye on this and tracking those volatile markets and the cost for processing that material. Very briefly, I'll go over this one. These are our preliminary revenues and expenses for 2025. These are unaudited. They're not final financials. We do third-party audits as other municipalities and districts do throughout the state. Long story short, our financials, we did very well in 2025. And this was largely due to a lot of initiatives that Pam Roberts initiated before I started, but also that I had continued throughout my tenure and will continue into this year as well. And so there were a lot of cost savings that were realized through various means and methods, initiatives, in some cases, and unfortunately there was a small reduction in force earlier in the year. And so we're really actively looking at how do we control costs, how do we maximize efficiencies, and how do we avoid any rate increases for as long as possible. Me, myself, and looking at all of the things that I have in my relatively short tenure with the organization, I am confident that we can avoid rate increases through at least 2027 and hopefully beyond that moving forward. We're looking at a lot of exciting initiatives. I think Representative Handy has seen the priorities, goals, and initiatives tables that we've developed, and so we're really developing a lot of areas where we can look at to streamline our efficiencies and ultimately reduce costs while maintaining or even in some cases improving our service levels. Millcreek data specific. So this is basically just looking at a comparison year over year for Millcreek between 2024 and 2025. Nothing too enlightening here. We did see a reduction in tonnages district-wide, although we didn't have a lot of change in our services for the number of households. But we did see a slight increase in the tonnages from Millcreek City. Nothing that's necessarily significant, but most things really remain steady. Millcreek residents continue to take advantage of our voucher program, our scrap program, service orders. Those kind of include a variety of items, but changing a lid, replacing a container, et cetera. But largely, a lot of the tonnages remained relatively the same, so no major changes there. Millcreek residents also have a relatively large diversion rate compared to the remainder of our service area. So in 2025, about 21% of the materials that were collected curbside were diverted for either recycling, glass, or the green waste program that I mentioned earlier as well. So some various data here, but ultimately Millcreek's doing quite well from a diversion perspective, which helps a variety of items, including keeping costs low for us on the tail end post-collection at these facilities as well. So how does Millcreek compare to the other service area cities in our service area? Very well, I would say. And some of these cities that are shown here are probably a little bit of misnomers. Emigration Canyon is a unique service area to where we provide a lot of larger container front load services that are not included in these data points. So it probably looks more misleading from the percentage of diversion. Murray, we service a portion of that service area, predominantly the eastern portion of Murray. I don't have any hypotheses as to why Murray is higher, but it seems like they're doing quite well. And then Millcreek is right in line and above our district-wide diversion goal of about 19%. Again, very briefly, we have some new flyers that we're trying to get out into the communities. These are on our website. These are at our front desk. I believe they've been added to Millcreek's website. but looking at new ways to help people become better aware of what's recyclable, what's not recyclable, trying to make sure people are fully aware that recyclables should never be bagged. That does constitute contamination, and it gets rejected at these recycling facilities. So a lot of new initiatives here, using color coding for, green is go, red is no, is kind of the philosophy there, but also for recycling, the universal color for recycling is typically predominantly blue in the United States. Scrap program. So again, lots of data here, probably more than you all wanted to see today. We are actually taking some new initiatives for our scrap program this year, and we also are looking at possibly optimizing or even altering the means and methods for our bulky waste program in 2027. I'm really excited to continually pursue this. Our scrap program was very successful in 2025. We minimized repeat users. We maximized our wait list reservations that we're able to fulfill. And we also, supported a collection of nearly 10% of our customers throughout our service area for the scrap program. So in 2026, we have enhanced our allocations for seasonal drivers, but also for our in-house drivers. So we're shifting our resources from our previously fee-based trailer program. We're actually kind of pausing that for the year to focus more on the scrap program. So this year, as part of that initiative, instead of averaging about 60 containers per day, we're hoping to average at least 72, if not more, containers per day in 2026. So we'll continue to kind of really focus on that and prioritize our recruitment efforts and retention for our seasonal workers, which can be a challenge in itself.
So can I ask about the tiered reservation system? Was this the first year that it was implemented? I believe, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So did you find that those who really wanted containers, who hadn't been able to get them in the past, that you were able to service all of them, or do you have like a second year of waiting list where people were still, 2 years in a row unable, and they'll be bumped to the first of the line this next year?
That's a great question. So we've been actively tracking all of those data. So if someone was on the wait list in 2024 and was not able to get a container fulfilled, they received priority for 2025. Secondly, if someone had a container in the previous year, they were kind of the last offered for that container service. And so the next slide kind of shows other wait lists that were not fulfilled in 2025. And so those will, again, have priority for 2026 as well. So we're hoping to kind of get that rotation throughout our customers and throughout all of our service areas.
Was it difficult to administer, or what did you find it okay?
Our administrative team, Renee Plants and Yale Johnson, who manages our website, they've created some really unique and helpful tools to help track and monitor those items. And so we've got a really great tracking system in place that's helping to really monitor that and to make sure we don't have contractors using these containers, but also the people that are even repeating year over year. We're limiting them as well, but making sure that we're prioritizing folks who are on the wait list previous year or who didn't have a request their previous year first before we go into those different tiers as well. So this year I'm optimistic that we can definitely ramp up our serviceability, but we're also looking at possibly in 2027 to really possibly even completely revamp the program to where I see our ability to maximize and even triple or even quadruple our serviceability on that, but at the same time while actually reducing our cost for providing that service. So more to come on that. We're in the incipient stages of exploring those opportunities as well, and we'll definitely provide updates once we get more, and we'll bring those to our Board of Trustees on a monthly basis as well as we get more information. So this is basically our scrap detail by city in 2025. So for Millcreek, the very bottom, there was the last service, so we kind of had Millcreek on the bottom of the list, but we rotate out every year. So I don't think Millcreek's at the top this year, but we rotate out each year in a different section of our service area. Millcreek, we ultimately were able to service 1,306 households and containers delivered for approximately 1,000 tons of materials. Overall, throughout the scrap season, we hauled over close to 7,500 containers totaling close to 6,000 tons of bulky waste materials. I know I'm probably a little bit over on intended time, so I'm going to go briefly through these. So we have a variety of initiatives this year, and they are largely focusing on streamlining our efficiencies, optimizing our programs and services, identifying areas where we can reduce cost from administrative and operational and IT management services. We're looking at everything, and we're actively doing it in a way that is intended to keep our costs low and to avoid any future rate increases for the longest degree possible. So a lot of these items I've already kind of spoken about. As part of our monthly billing initiatives, we're also looking at reducing our printing and mailing costs. Obviously, that costs a lot as well to send out 60,000 plus bills every month. So we're actually looking at the potential possibility of going from a full-size bill 8F by 11 to a postcard that wouldn't require an envelope. Preliminary estimates, that looks like about a savings of almost $300,000 annually alone, should we move forward with that option as well.
So if you do that, then will you not accept checks for payment?
We would still accept checks. The customers would have to stuff them in their own envelopes, but we offer a variety of payment services. But folks that do stuff those into envelopes, they go to a lockbox that's managed by one of our financial partners, Zion's Bank. And then those lock boxes, they actually run the checks and process them with a UPC code that ties it to the account. So checks would still be eligible for payments, walk-ins with cash, online payments. We accept credit cards and ACH payments, and then the auto pay as well. So we are looking at, I'll jump ahead of myself here, we are looking at trying to influence payment practices that reduce costs to the organization. And so we're bringing back to our board some proposals for a payment transaction fee for predominantly card payments, which even for a $26 bill, we get charged $1.50 per transaction. So it costs quite a bit of money, and that adds up very, very quickly. But at the same time, we're looking to ideally influence payment methods that are less expensive to the organization, but we're looking at providing a series of opportunities that would not incur a payment transaction fee as well. And so if we can get people off of card payments, that helps us in saving a ton of monies and not having to hopefully absorb too many of those transaction costs.
And one thing that's interesting about the letters as well is we figured out, I think it was around the time that you were starting, that even if you sign up for the automatic e-billing, you have to take a second step to unsubscribe from getting that letter in the mail. So a lot of the times people will still be getting letters in the mail that we're just wasting money on, and they don't pay through check. We only kind of put two and two together when I realized, wait, I'm still getting them myself.
And that's something we definitely, that should be kind of automatic as part of someone who signs up for electronic billing. We are in the process actually of actively negotiating a contract with a new payment processing provider that we've already, through a large RFP process, we've identified that it's actually the best value for the organization and actually the lowest cost for processing those types of payments that I've discussed. And so just switching vendors alone is looking to save us upwards of $140,000. And so if we can continue to kind of optimize and influence payment methods that cost less money to process, then the better off we'll be in the long run as well. So lots of things we're looking at. I'll skip to the next slide. Operating expenses as well. So we are continuing to pursue diesel truck replacements instead of compressed natural gas trucks. We just got some quotes recently. The CNG trucks cost $60,000 more per truck. These trucks that used to cost less than $300,000 are now well over $400,000 for replacement. So we're really looking at how to optimize our replacement schedule. The longer we sit on trucks, the more maintenance and repair costs that are incurred. And so we're trying to find that sweet spot as to when do we best identify the time frame to replace a truck before we incur significant repairs and maintenance costs. And we also are actively absorbing, where we can, increased fees. The Salt Lake Valley facilities did go up $2 per ton this year. We're also seeing increased repair and maintenance labor rates for our fleet management services provider. We're also looking at, in some cases, expecting increased fuel costs for CNG. And so we're looking at a variety of ways to absorb those, but obviously to reduce all overall repair costs and maintenance costs, and then to maximize our routing efficiencies, which is attributable to why our fuel costs were so low last year compared to what they were budgeted as well. We've really maximized our efficiencies and our routing and our collections. So long story short, we're actually looking at all of these items and continually looking at ways to improve and optimize our efficiencies and our operations and maintaining all lines of service and the best customer service that we can provide throughout all of our partner cities. We really enjoy working with Millcreek. I always enjoy coming to this, the council meeting. I really like this mixed use area as well. I may get some dinner after this here tonight as well. These are just the new fees that I've talked about to a limited degree. This year we also have implemented for folks that had put their can out late and want us to return to pick that up. Previously we didn't have an option for them to let that happen. So we are verifying missed pickups through our camera systems on our truck. And if a customer requests that we go and return to pick up their can, we've added a nominal fee to do that service, which does cost us a lot more per average than $25 per container. And then the recycling contamination fee, this is something we'll use very rare and far between. This is something that's more helping us to drive policy and leverage, in some cases, some capacity to reduce contamination in our recycling. So this is something that we probably will rarely, if ever, bill. We provide an education first approach. We tag carts with what we call OOPS tags and identify what materials are problematic. Sometimes we collect them, sometimes we don't, but we always go back to get them. If a customer has 3 or more occurrences, we do track these by resident, then we will consider imposing the fee instead of removing their container, which has been practiced in the past, which ultimately costs the organization more money in doing so when we reinstate that service. So just a new thing that we've added to largely just kind of leverage some of the policies and hope to continually drive down contamination rates, which we have seen a large reduction throughout all of our service area, including Millcreek in many subsequent and successive years as well. That is all I had. Thank you for your time and attention, probably more than you expected. If you have questions, even after today, feel free to reach out anytime, and I really appreciate your support and attendance.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That was very thorough. Do we have the slides? So if anybody on the council wants to do a deeper dive. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. It's
You're
good
welcome.
to see you again.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, we'll turn the time now over to Aaron Roberts for a discussion about Ness Canyon Debris Basin and Special Improvement District.
Good evening, Council. For those of you that don't know me, Aaron Roberts, I'm Millcreek's Stormwater Operations and Construction Manager, so title's expanded a little bit from what it was on the slide, but pretty much the same thing. Here tonight, just give a quick update on our Ness Canyon Debris Basin, filling in for Dan Drumeiler, our stormwater engineer, since he is out this week. But bit of the summary. This is what we're going to be going over. Summary, project background, the impact to the residents, our funding sources, potentially a special improvement district, and then our next steps going forward. So, project background. What is an alluvial fan? Alluvial fan is a deposit of gravel, sand, and sediments deposited by a fast-moving river. At one point, Ness was a fast-moving river, not a dry creek bed. That essentially comes from mountain streams. It's very prone to flash floods and debris flows, and it's a high-risk development. Essentially, homes shouldn't have been built on alluvial fan, but we're well past that point now, so we're kind of rectifying those issues now. In conjunction with that, we had a flood insurance rate map imposed on us by FEMA and a consultant in 2019 was when it was adopted, and that's kind of where this whole thing is starting with. And then on top of that, we've had flooding and wildfire events in the past in the canyon. Flooding 2019 was the big one. There was a minor one in 2023 after the big snow year, and then the fire of 2020, which leads to deforestation and of the hillside, which could lead to potential debris flows later on. So we've been lucky to not have any of those yet, but there's always a chance when we have a wildfire event. So going back to kind of the insurance map, this is the map that was installed in 2019 by FEMA, adopted by Salt Lake County, Millcreek, as well as the federal government. It goes over certain zones based on the alluvial fan. Insurance rates are based off of which zone you're in. A being the highest rates, going down to, I think, yellow or pink is the lowest on this map, and just in terms of kind of where your risk assessment is on a potential flood from that alluvial fan. Here is our kind of initial rendering of what the debris basin is. We're at about 30% plans right now with our consultant, Bowen and Collins. So this is our current rendering. This is not for sure what it's going to look like, but you can kind of see in the top left, that's phase 1 that we've already completed. That was with our kind of our emergency management side of things. The helicopter pad for fire events, the fire dipping tank, 16,000 gallon tank. There was no other options within the central Wasatch for this other than reservoirs. So it really expanded fire capabilities by us installing that in conjunction with the Forest Service. The basin there, kind of there in the middle, we're still working with the Forest Service on what it's going to look like at the end. We know for sure we're going to seed it with native seed, but there is still potential for scrub oak and other native vegetation to go back. So it's not just going to be a grassy field. There might be some potential for trees and other shrubbery.
So Aaron, how visible will that be from those homes that are located right there on Zarahemla?
Can I get back to you in 30
Yep.
seconds? Project scope. So the basin construction. The basin's going to be constructed fully subgrade. So the existing grade that is there, we're not going to build anything up. It's going to be dug down. So the existing homes shouldn't see much unless they're those few homes that are kind of southwest that are above. They'll be able to see down. But the existing homes that are already there on Zarahemla, they should just kind of see a flat grade up to Neff's Canyon. So there's nothing being built up around there. So it's going to be completely subgrade. It's more visually appealing. It's less impactful. We've worked a lot with our consultant on making sure that it's going to be the most visually appealing as possible. The big kind of project scope for this is there's going to be about 70,000 cubic yards of material that has to leave that site. For reference, a single dump truck holds about 15 cubic yards. So we're looking at around 5,000 truckloads of material that has to be trucked out. We will be able to use some on site to expand the existing parking lot in the existing basin, but we're still looking at about 5,000 trucks that have to come off of this site over the course of the excavation period, which roughly will be 3 to 6 months most likely. So other scope, the parking lot and the trailhead might potentially be closed again. It really just depends on how quickly we want to get it done. If we want to keep access open, it's going to take longer. If we want to get done quicker, we might have to close access. So that's going to be in conjunction with the Forest Service. And then impact on existing roadways. 5,000 trucks on our roads. I'm not going to say conditions of roads that we have, but 5,000 is going to destroy any road, even if it's brand new. So we're going to have quite the impact on the existing roads in the area. So stormwater pipeline improvement. So from the debris basin, we'll have about, I think the estimate is a mile of pipe that'll go from the basin down to Wasatch Boulevard to existing infrastructure. So we will be going through existing roadways, adding pipe, catch basins, et cetera. So adding a storm drain system where there currently isn't any now. And working with Public Works, we're hoping that we can do roadway improvements along with this pipeline. So instead of replacing just half the road with the pipe, we can just do a full width restoration, get it out of the way with kind of our pavement preservation. And then the big one is with the Forest Service, expansion of the existing parking lot. There's about 34 spots now. By adding in the parking lot expansion to this project, we would be able to double or even triple the parking spots available. So it'd be and also will be bathrooms associated with that, et cetera. So it'd kind of make it more of a destination rather than kind of just a wayside trail the way it is right now. So current timeline. Right off the bat, we're a little behind. That's kind of due to some FEMA things, some Forest Service. We're currently in phase 1, kind of the middle portion, where the purple with the red diamond. We're kind of at that point right now. We're a little behind because we have not submitted to FEMA yet. So we're about maybe 4 or 5 months behind. But where we're on track is we would probably want to construct in 2027, 2028, assuming we get full approval from FEMA once we submit. They're probably about 9 to 12 months out from their approval. So we're hoping we can submit by middle of this year and get on their kind of timeline to get starting approved for 2027, but probably ended up being constructed in 2028. So Impacts to residents. So there's 488 parcels that are within the current floodplain. The biggest impact is by adding the debris basin, we're going to remove the we're going to decrease the potential for a 100-year flood event. So that's what made it flood in 2019 and 2023. The one in 2019 I actually believe was 50-year. It wasn't even a full 100-year. So it would have been much worse if it was a 100-year storm. But adding the debris basin would really decrease that likelihood. Wildfire and flooding concerns are with the 100-year storm. Wildfire we've already addressed with the phase 1 with the heli well and the helipad. So Forest Service now has something within the central Wasatch that could address any sort of wildfire issues much quicker and gives them kind of a staging area for anything they need to do. The biggest impact is homes currently within the floodplain are required to have flood insurance if they have a current mortgage or they refinance. Anyone that had a mortgage pre-2019 did not need to get flood insurance. They're kind of grandfathered in, but any new mortgages do have to have flood insurance as part of that floodplain. But the debris basin would help remove those flood insurance costs because it would no longer be a floodplain. And then one of the big ones is the renovation and remodeling restrictions. I told this gentleman wrong, actually. I was getting my requirements mixed up, but currently any property, it used to be 30%, it's now 50%. Any property that is doing a renovation of 50% or more of their property value has to come up to current floodplain requirements. So essentially, if you have a house in the floodplain, you have a basement, you're doing a renovation, that's 50% of the value of your home, you probably have to remove your basement because you have to get out of the floodplain entirely. So there's a lot of restrictions currently on remodeling. Because meeting floodplain restrictions is much harder because of flood levels, et cetera. You have to be completely out of any flood level. So FEMA does a review on all of those in conjunction with our building department. The big one with this is Fire Station 112, which is there right behind Olympus Hill Shopping Mall. They can't do any renovation because of this remodeling restriction. So they're in the floodplain. Anything they want to do is going to put it well over 50% of their value. So they can't renovate at all. And they want to add a hazmat facility for Parley's response. They want to add a wildland fire portion of their station, but they're just not able to do anything. So that's one of the big restrictions currently on the remodel aspect. So funding. We've been fortunate, and Millcreek's great at getting federal funding. You guys know that. So for the design portion, we were able to get $3 million from the legislature. This was really pushed after the wildfire in Mitt Romney on getting the design from the pre-disaster mitigation funds. So we have $3 million from the federal government for design. We're at about $1 million of that currently, so we have some money still to play with in terms of the design. Construction, we are getting a $21 million grant from the FEMA floodplain mitigation assistance, totaling our grants at about $24,000. $24 million, yes. So.
That doesn't even cover a dump truck.
Correct. So $24 million. Numbers are hard for me. But what this does is it leads us with a funding gap. So we have about 25% of our Millcreek local share that we need to cover, roughly $5.3 million. A lot of internal discussions, this, that, or the other on how to do this. So I'll go into that. When former Mayor Silvestrini was, I'm not going to say when he was with us, he's still with us. A lot of internal discussion was done, and a special improvement district was kind of proposed, kind of talked about, and he was going to kind of be our champion on that aspect of kind of pushing to see what we could do. It was his project, kind of, I'm not going to call it his baby, but he was really kind of behind the special improvement district. And the reason for that is it only benefits 488 parcels. Special improvement district, you can kind of impose it on just certain parcels, so that way the whole city's not having to pay for this project that only benefits a portion of the city. The other options are bonding, which the whole city ends up paying for, general fund, the whole city ends up paying for. So this is kind of the direction we had gone at the time, was the special improvement district. And so with that, we kind of went into the next step, which was a postcard survey. Erica Okada, our public information manager, put all this together. We sent postcards out to 474 of the 488 parcels because they're repeat owners, so we didn't need to send one to each parcel because it was the same owner. Kind of just asked a few questions. Generally, do you have a mortgage? Are you a renter, etc.? Do you have flood insurance? How much do you pay? So kind of just trying to collect information on what people are kind of going through right now to kind of compare it to what maybe a special improvement district would be. Of these postcard results, we got about 25% back. So getting 25% back, we have about a 75% confidence interval that it's going to be indicative of the population as a whole. So what we're kind of seeing is 50% of the respondents have a mortgage, 40% of the respondents pay flood insurance. So there's that gap of people that had a mortgage before, to those that have a new one, where some are paying flood insurance, but not all. 44 of those 100 residents, so I mean a little less than half, are paying flood insurance, or the number's right there, 44. Of those, 42 are paying less than $5,000 per year. We didn't ask how much it is, just kind of a general number. One resident is paying between $5,000 and $10,000, and then one resident is paying more than $20,000 a year, so they must have quite the property that's in the floodplain there. And of those 109 residents that responded, 33 have been impacted by the remodeling or the rebuilding restrictions. Either they haven't been able to, or they've had to do things to get out of the floodplain. And as I said, we have a 75% confidence interval that this is going to be indicative of kind of the whole 500 homes in the floodplain. So, potential cost estimates. This is specifically for the special improvement district that I'm referring to. 488 parcels, our funding gap, $5.3 million. Rough math, it's going to be about $10,800 per parcel. And kind of after initial internal discussions, a 10-year plan was kind of thought about for this special improvement district, which would put it at about $1,078 per year, roughly $90 a month. So you're looking at $90 a month for these affected parcels to kind of cover that funding gap. So now that you kind of have all of the information, we're essentially in next step phases. Mayor Silvestrini was kind of our champion on the project. Now it's kind of seeing if we do want to pursue this, is it worth pursuing? Do we want to do it now? Do we want to do it in a few years? I mean, essentially the project's 2 to 3 years out from construction, which is going to make us not have to really cover that funding for another 3 to 4. So it's not something that needs to be done immediately. It's kind of next steps are figuring out when do we want to do it, how do we want to do it, etc.
So with the grant, what's our timeline on that? We don't want to miss out on any of that grant money because that's key.
3 years, but we can get an extension. I believe Dan has requested an extension from FEMA as it is because we were already a year delayed on design. So we have a 5-year window. So we have 3 years left on our current window, but we can seek an extension because we have not used any of that funding yet.
Okay, and if it's pushed off, obviously construction costs go up the longer you wait to do them. Do you have kind of like a guesstimate on how much construction costs will rise year to year if we push this?
So construction costs are kind of interesting because we were expecting to see roughly a 6 to 8% rise in construction costs this year. We're actually seeing prices lower than last year.
Well, that's nice.
So it's hard to kind of guess. We're going to say on average, I think we go with about 5% each year of construction costs increasing. But as I said, that could be lower in a few years.
If we have a 2020.
Correct. Yeah, if we have a 2020, then this is going to be a $50 million project. That's the thing is things could go crazy. Things might get really expensive. So that's the hard thing of predicting construction costs. But if you just imagine maybe a 5% increase per year. So if we push it off 3-4 years, we're looking at 15 to 20% increase. No, it's not compounding like that, but yeah.
And our grant money doesn't go up, so that would just mean that cost is pushed onto Millcreek.
Correct. The gap will be pushed onto the special improvement district or however we want to pay it, whether it's a bonding or general fund money.
So just what's important, I guess, for those joining in or those who are here attending is this, the funding that we've received. We all worked collectively over the last couple of years to get this federal funding with our Congress representatives.
Very much so, yeah.
And because we don't want to lose this funding, I don't know, I think we're too far into it to tell you we're not going to do this project.
For sure, yeah.
And so another factor is when we talk about I think the numbers you showed were 30% of our residents could not do any renovations because they were in the floodplain.
Correct. They've had issues whether they pushed off the renovations or they ended up having to spend way more than they wanted to. They've been impacted by the renovation restriction in some way. We
Okay.
didn't really expand on how, but just a number, rough number.
And then so today with the 5 million that we are looking to approach these residents on the special improvement district, that 5 million could potentially go up to 15% over the course of 5 years. Is that what you said?
Yeah, just factor in with rising construction
Rising
costs.
construction
Yeah, it
costs.
could go up. I mean, just yeah, say 15%. That would be a substantial amount. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to gather
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
the information
Yeah.
because if it is a resident looking at, okay, all I have to do is pay for X amount of years in the
Yes.
special improvement district, $90 a month,
Mhm.
when in actuality, there's that disclaimer of due to rising costs.
Right.
If
Due to
ri-
rising
if costs
costs,
rise.
due to rising costs, if we push it off, that number could be $150 a month.
So,
So
Aaron, you kind of went through it a little bit fast, not a criticism, but the $90 per month for how many months? How many years? do
10,
you-
10
for
years.
10 years.
For 10 years.
And if somebody were to sell, I mean, it runs with the property. So
Correct.
it's,
It runs with the property. It's yeah, on that parcel, it'd be those 500 affected parcels that would have to pay into that improvement district. Or, I mean, whatever is established, I guess. It doesn't have to be those 500. It could be whatever's decided. But I mean, that just seemed, at the time, that seemed the most fair based on that it's only affecting those 500.
okay.
So,
Thank you. This was very
Yeah.
good information. This is kind of the first time we've all heard about this.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, not only from the council, but from the public. So we appreciate you
Yeah,
going
course.
through this. And Erica, thank you for your outreach
So
efforts.
just a few more, missed the slide.
Okay.
Erica put this together. Kind of the next steps in addition to this would be coordination with directly impacted residents of the debris basin. Plans have not been finalized. Like I said, we're at 30% plans, but there are going to be some properties that are directly impacted. We kind of need to figure out first some of the funding stuff before we have these conversations with them of if the project is going to be funded, et cetera. Because yeah, pipe will go through some properties. How many properties is kind of dependent on us and what we decide. Multiple public houses will be held. So as part of the FEMA NEPA process, at least one will be held to discuss environmental and EPA stuff. But then as a city, we're kind of hoping to do a special improvement open house just for the impacted parcels.
And a special improvement district is created by a ballot.
Correct.
By ballot initiative. That is
Correct.
not a city council decision, except to say we'll put it out to the residents to vote on.
Correct. And
Okay.
so the initial plan was to get it on the ballot in 2026, because we're kind of trying to streamline this process of getting this project going. But knowing that we do have an option for an extension, it's kind of, we can move it as necessary, but it does need to be a ballot initiative for the special improvement district.
And then I just have one quick question. So you said 10 years, but you talking about infrastructure that's affected by this going in. Is 10 years enough, or do we foresee any more costs as a result of this being finished and done down the road? Because what I would want to avoid is, oh, we're done with this, and 10 years later, oh, we have to replace this, and it's $5 million more, and we have already absolved the SID. So what do we do?
John?
Above your pay grade, Aaron?
But my pay grade, yeah, exactly. So,
That's a great question. There will be ongoing maintenance costs with the debris basin. Whether or not we have a debris flow or water flow in there, we just have to maintain what's in it.
Okay.
And that will be an ongoing expense that's not included in the special improvement district as an ongoing maintenance fee. So
Okay.
there will be some, hopefully it's very small and negligible, but there will be some costs incurred in long-term operation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
okay. Any additional questions?
No, thank you very much,
There will be.
Aaron.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah,
So
there will
we'll,
be.
we'll be in discussions, I'm sure. So
Thank you for the information.
thanks, guys.
Good
Council?
presentation.
Council,
Yes,
can I
John?
give you a couple comments?
Sure.
You probably need to think of this far in advance because you're probably going to have to borrow money because the contractor is not going to take payments over 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh. That's why we have you. John.
That's
Thank you, John.
good to know. I mean, and that's important then to watch interest rates and see what happens there.
Yeah, probably just make your best guess.
No, thank you. That's good to remind us
Yeah, you have to have the ballot measure passed first. but-
before. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will now turn the time over to Kayla Mayers for our promise quarterly update.
She's working her way up.
We,
Thank you,
it's
Erica.
it's 6:54.
I would recommend, I hate shortchanging Promise because they've worked hard
I
and
do
have
too.
good stuff.
Yeah.
I would say maybe do staff reports for 2 minutes and then adjourn and then call your 7 o'clock meeting to order and then
I'm
Reorder the
good with
agenda.
that.
That's
We
what-
don't want to shortchange you, especially since we have guests here helping with the presentation, which thank you for your patience in going through our meeting. So do we have some staff reports, Mr.
we do have a
City
couple
Manager?
ones. One, the legislative session is still going. We're up at the League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee meeting today at the Capitol. Myself, Mayor Jackson, Councilmember DeSirant, and our Assistant City Manager and Planning Director, Francis Lilly, is the Utah American Planning Association Chapter Legislative Liaison this year. So it's been fun having him there too. It's interesting because calendar-wise, after this week, we are 50% through the 45-day session. Bill-wise, they've passed about 10% of what they did last year, which means there's about 90% of the work to still go in the last few weeks. Some of the issues that we are watching closely as a city, one sad note, HB 13 that Representative Cutler was helping us on last year and this year. This is the bill that is saying that you can put a lien, that a municipality could put a lien on someone who was not paying their stormwater utility bill, just like special districts are able to do. And that bill died on the floor of the House today. House leadership decided they didn't like it, came out and were the first ones to vote for it, and ended up dying by a vote, I think 39-32. There's a sentiment up there where they're nervous about any expanded powers to government, right? And so even though it's a pretty common sense one, because unlike water or power, we can't shut off their stormwater. We joked that maybe John should be dispatched for any deadbeats on stormwater to put sandbags in their gutters, but we probably won't do that.
We would never do that.
So there are other ways we can look at doing that, but that's where that one went. Representative Candace Pierucci has a couple bills that we're watching very closely. One of them is about special districts. I know Evan's aware of this one. And that one had a piece so that a city could withdraw from a special district, such as Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, although who would in their right mind ever want to leave such a wonderful group? But also it affected Slovisa, the Salt Lake Valley Law Enforcement. Thank you, that one. I know my acronyms, I forget what they stand for. Even though Millcreek is not a Slovisa city, we care deeply for Kearns and Magna and our other Slovisa partners because they're our UPD funding partners. And if they lost, if Salt Lake County was able to pull out Slovisa entirely and take the Kennecott monies with them, then that all of a sudden makes the financial burden enormous for those other UPD partners of ours. So we're very concerned about that. In the negotiations back and forth, Representative Pierucci has removed the Slovisa piece, but it still has pieces in there that would affect Woodford and others. So it's not as bad of a bill as it was by any means. And so to that part, we're grateful, but it's still not our favorite bill on the Hill. And we're still watching it closely. There's another bill that she was running that currently under state law, cities in the Salt Lake Valley, or cities that meet specific criteria, mainly Salt Lake Valley, are able to have a right of first refusal to buy any surplus school property if a public school is ever closed and surplused. And she ran a bill saying that instead of cities having the right of first refusal, charter schools should, which of course we don't like that as a city. And with our League of Cities and Towns partners, fought hard on that. She has a substitute bill coming out that puts municipalities throughout the state, gives them a right of first refusal, but also at the same time, on parity, charter schools do too. And then they would put their, let's say you had a school close and the school district were to surplus the property, and both a charter school and the city were interested and kind of bid on it, then the school district could just decide who to give it to between those two based on a host of criteria. So it's the state's not putting the thumb on the bill, on the scale of that bill, but still trying to make it neutral. The League of Cities today, they're pretty lukewarm now on that bill. It's also going to specify that it does not count long-term leases, which in the case of Grant School District, they're not looking at selling any of their excess properties, although they are interested in some cases of doing long-term leases. So another staff update, there is a bill on the Hill clarifying transportation utility fees and what that looks like. There's cities around the state that have successfully done those for years. we're watching that closely because we're viewing that the transportation utility fee, or TUF, as one possible solution to our crumbling road infrastructure. So we're watching that closely. And speaking of TUFs, there was a good stakeholder committee held last week that included business owners, large property owners, and residents. We appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Councilwoman Bev Weepy and Councilmember Tom DeSiren that attended that, representing the council, and the Public Works team, many who are here that were part of that. So that they received some good feedback there. One of the things that came out of that is that we need to have a longer process and a more thorough discussion. And as we've talked to Mayor Jackson and John Miller here from Public Works, and Erica as well, with who wears two hats, kind of communications and Public Works communications. We're talking of a longer timeline that would be, let's have an open house on March 4th. That's a Wednesday night. They'd be here from 5 to 7, where we'd better explore with our residents and others who come about some of the challenges we're facing with the crumbling infrastructure, where we've come as a city, what the county did and didn't do to keep up on the roads, and what the problems we've inherited. Then we'd have another open house in April. That this time would be on a Thursday for those who can't do Wednesdays. Thursday, April 2nd from 5 to 7, where hopefully by that point staff can come back with a number of options, right? There are options we can look at specifically, whether it's a transportation utility bond or utility fee, whether it's doing nothing, whether it's a general obligation bond. So we would explore some of those options. Then we'd have another open house in May on transportation issues. That would be Monday, May 4th. Again, we're moving the days of the week so that people could attend if they couldn't make the other in the evening, 5 to 7. And on that one, we would explore, okay, of the options we talked about in April, which ones make the most sense, and flesh those out a little further. And so we're having a more robust policy discussion on this. We also have some A1 front page articles planned in our newsletter coming up, in our printed newsletter that goes to every home in the city, that can talk about this conversation of the challenges we're facing and some of the potential options. So just so you know, that's kind of where we're going with some of the transportation challenges we're having, to have a robust community discussion, because there are a lot of options, and there are pros and cons with every option, including the do nothing option. And so we'll thoroughly explore those with you as stakeholders and also the community. One question to you, Council. Erica's been good to send out calendar invites to myself and John and the mayor. I assume you all would want to be invited to those as well. And so, Erica, if you could please get those out to council members also. And then the question to the recorder, if we do have a quorum there and those are talking about topics that at some point would be voted on, would you need to notice those as public meetings? Sounds like it. Okay, so we'll be sure to do that too. Okay, well, those are some staff reports, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion do we need to do anything to reorder?
I recommend having a motion to move work meeting item 3 to before public comment in the regular meeting.
Motion to move item 3 from our work meeting to, let's see, just
following public comment.
following public comment.
Motion by
I'd
Bev,
say
second.
before public comment
Before public comment.
Okay,
to get them done.
fair.
Before public comment.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Bev, second by Sylvia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion carries. So do I have a
Motion to adjourn and move into our regular work meeting.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Do you need to stop the recording and start?